Today, I'm here to hopefully save you some heartbreak and break down everything you need to know before drafting your novel, or at the very least before querying. Now, this could just be me, but I feel like no one really talks about the book selling process until you've already written a few drafts of a novel that you adore that might not actually be sellable. Because the process of getting an agent and publishing a book is so up and down, it can be really hard to set yourself up for success. I know that I would have benefited so much from knowing what to look for and what to think about before I actually started drafting. So that's what we're going to get into today. Hello, welcome back to episode 2 of my Brainstorm to Book series, where I take you through the process of building my next novel, The Distance Between Skin, and teaching you how to build yours as well. If you're new here, hi, I'm Geneva. I'm a literary fiction, fantasy, and romance writer here on YouTube, Instagram, and Substack. And if you haven't watched episode 1, I highly recommend. But there we were talking all about book aesthetics and brainstorming and how to find the heart of your story. So watch that one first and then come back to this one. Pretty pleased with the cherry on top. But we have so much to cover today. The setup of this video is going to be a little bit different. In the first half, I'm going to run through all of the things you want to check for when trying to come up with a book that is marketable and something that can hopefully get traditionally published. And then in the second half, I'm going to bring you along with me to one of my favorite cafes to do some writing and actually going through the checklist of all the things that we talk about today. So stick around to the end if you would like to join me. I feel like I should preface this by saying that this video is not me saying if you do this, and this, you are going to get a 6-figure publishing deal. I fear that's not how this works. Today's video is all about making sure that when you have a new book idea, you're giving it the correct framework and you know important aspects of it that will make it easier to sell in the future rather than harder to sell. The ultimate goal is basically to make it digestible for both publishing houses and readers, whether that's with self-publishing or traditionally publishing. Now, this is in no way me saying that you should write for the market. I think writing is fun. It's therapeutic. It's deeply personal for a lot of people, myself included, which is why I would always condone writing for yourself and not always writing to get published. But at the end of the day, publishing, especially traditional publishing, is a business and it's always going to cater to the market. So publishers obviously want to make the most money, which might not be what you envision for your novel. And with that, there are always going to be things that can help you, especially in the long run. So let's sit down, let's talk about it before we go to the cafe. Okay, so the first thing you want to know about your book before you actually start writing is your book's metadata, which is basically like providing a resume for your book. This provides all the information needed for cataloging your book or knowing where it's going to show up on databases or in a library. There are 3 parts to this. It's the age category, the genre, and the projected word or page count. Obviously, YA content and adult content are going to read differently, or at least they should. But if you are struggling to figure out what category your book would fit into, you want to think about the ages of your main character, the prevalence of violence, of sex, and the themes that you want to tackle and examine. Knowing your age category is going to really help you when you're writing because you'll know what kind of scenes you can include and what kind of language you can use and just things like that. Step 2 is picking a genre. And by genre, I don't mean romance or mystery or fantasy. I think that's a little bit too specific for right now. In my opinion, I find it a lot easier to trust your beta readers and your alpha readers in the future to actually sit down and read your work and help you pin down a genre at that point in the process. However, when I say picking a genre, I mean knowing if your book is going to be literary fiction or genre fiction. Now, people debate all the time about what literary fiction actually is, but we're going to keep it simple for today and say that genre fiction usually focuses on what's happening to your characters, whereas literary fiction focuses on your character's reaction to set events. Literary fiction is probably going to be your more prose forward kind of book. It's those all vibes and no plot kind of books. I'll put examples on the screen because it's one of those like you'll know it when you see it kind of things. The way you approach storytelling is very different for each of these 2 categories, which is why you want to figure it out beforehand. Something like genre fiction is going to be more focused on plot twists and surprising the reader and, making a really action-packed and engaging story, whereas literary fiction is going to be focusing on the character growth and the internal conflict that your character is dealing with. And then lastly is your projected word count. For this step, just go on Google or even Readsy and figure out what parameters you have for your book. If you know you're an underwriter, knowing the word count to strive for will probably make drafting a lot easier, and it will also make plotting easier when you need to figure out how many scenes you can include and knowing if the book idea you have has enough substance in it to stand with other books in its genre. Now, in the context of querying and preparing for publishing, comps or book comparisons are so important. Book comparisons give agents a sense of market potential, of tropes, of themes, and basically give them a general vibe of your book. I've seen query letters where people use like video games, music, movies. I mean, I would just stick to a book, but do whatever your heart desires. And comps don't have to be wholly similar either. You can pull specific themes or settings or aesthetics or even tropes, honestly, or the way that certain tropes are examined in other novels. Quick tip from yours truly, try to pick books that have been published recently, books that are timeless, or books in the same age, category, and genre. Knowing your book comparison beforehand ensures that your book actually has an audience. Now, I'm gonna hold your hand while I say this, but let's say you're a romance writer and you're writing a romance book and you can't think of any book comparisons because the only two authors coming to mind are Emily Henry and Colleen Hoover. That might be a sign that we need to read some more. Reading as a writer, quick tangent, but reading as a writer is so important. It not only stimulates your writer brain, but it also strengthens your craft and allows you to keep up to date with what's trending in your book genre and what the current state of the book market actually is and looks like. So I hate to be that person, but I don't really hate to be that person. If you're struggling to come up with book comparisons, maybe this is just a sign that we can dust off that growing TBR that I know you have, because we all do. I'm not judging. But if you are well read and you're just having a little bit of brain fog, I would recommend going on Goodreads or Google and searching this phrase to kind of give you some options to kickstart your brain. Also, please actually read the books that you're putting down as your comparisons. If you end up in a situation where you're telling a potential agent that your book is similar to this and then it ends up being not that because you don't actually know what that book is talking about, that is probably not going to be nice. If your idea is too vague and you're not finding anything that's really meshing with what you envisioned for your novel, that could be a sign to, double down on your idea a little bit more and get more clear about what you're actually trying to write. Or it could also mean that the idea that you have is better suited for a different medium. Like maybe you thought it was a really good book idea, but maybe it's better as a movie or even a TV show. So there's so many possibilities. It's just something to think about, which brings us to number 3, book summaries. Honestly, content creation is such a good way to hold yourself accountable, because when I say I've been putting this off, I have been putting this off for so long, but I actually need to do it today. And last up on our checklist is the logline or the one sentence pitch, the one paragraph pitch, and then the full premise with book comparisons. The ultimate goal of the logline is to give agents, editors, publishing houses, whoever is reading your novel, a general vibe of what your book is going to be while still enticing them to want to know more. Dumbing your idea down to its most basic level is a good way to see if the core or the central arc of your story is actually intriguing and something that people would want to read. It's your story stripped of all the extra fluff and details, hence why I find it so difficult to write, but hey, maybe that's just me. The second step to this is going to be writing your one paragraph pitch, which is there to give yourself a better sense of your book more holistically and what you're actually writing. And then the last step is writing your full premise, which usually comes around to being 2 to 4 paragraphs, including your book comparisons and metadata. It's important to know that this full premise isn't a summary of your novel, but it's kind of like a pre-query letter. You want to include who your character is, what they're going through, what's standing in their way, the general vibe or the tone that you're trying to set readers up for, and what people can expect when they read it. So, pre-query letter. There are 2 main reasons you want to go through all of the book summaries before you start writing. The first is so that you can get yourself in the right headspace of what you're sitting down to write every single time that you come to your laptop. The second is to make sure that your idea has enough substance to actually be a full-length novel. You're basically trying to understand, is it layered enough? Does it have enough to cover the projected word count that we figured out in the first step? As a recap, I will put the full checklist on the screen. Shout out to Canva for coming in clutch with the aesthetics. If you don't think it's aesthetic, please just lie to me. Like, I had a lot of fun. Like, don't rain on my parade. But anyway, now I'm about to go to the cafe and write down everything we just went through. So if you would like to join me on a little writing date, let's go. Let's get into it. I'll probably give some updates while I'm working, which is going to be really awkward, like talking in a cafe with a mini microphone, but life is too short to be embarrassed, you know? You just got to do some things, I think. And maybe some sneak peeks every now and then. We'll see. We'll see. Let's go get some writing done. Also, I'm getting distracted, but I think I'm gonna make one of those things I'm loving recently videos, because this Dream Angel perfume from Victoria's Secret is becoming my favorite thing on this planet. It's so good. But anyway, back to the outfit. This is the bag. Let's go. It's cold. I don't think I'm built for this weather, guys. I'm freezing. How am I supposed to write if I can't feel my hands, you know? Okay, it was a bit of a walk, but we got here. Okay, it's really packed in there, so I had to escape to the bathroom. But when it calms down, I'll actually start writing. I'll probably read a little bit or work on some schoolwork or actual work, you know, employed life. But I'll check back in a little bit later. Okay, it's about 5:30 and it finally calmed down a little bit, so I'm gonna start. I don't know what this audio is gonna sound like later on, but hopefully you can hear me. I'll show you my document and hopefully I can make some progress. I don't know. I'm really hoping this phone doesn't fall because that's insanely awkward. Alone with You in the Ether, I think, are going to be the biggest comparisons for this novel. I want the book to be really romantic, but also like really deep, you know? And you know, had to throw a little life in there also. You know me. Mayday, mayday. Guys, the struggle is struggling. How are we gonna get through this? I don't know. Hello. We're back. It's definitely almost 8 o'clock at night. So that took a couple hours, but it's okay because I think today was actually really productive. I'm really happy with how the project is turning out so far. I think for me, I'm usually the most stressed during the brainstorming phase because it's just like the book could go in any direction. Like any direction. How am I supposed to know if it's going in the right direction? But mini side note, I started this channel because I wanted to get more into the nitty-gritty of like how my brain like actually works when it comes to putting together a novel and just being more like open about my process. But in doing that, I feel like I've been gatekeeping from my Instagram. So I decided that if you're interested to see what the full premise of Project Loner is, I'm going to be posting a official book introduction on my Instagram page. I mean, I'm not telling you to hit the follow button, but if your hand happens to click it, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm really excited for how this project is turning out. And, you know, I'm so happy that you're doing it with me. But anyway, let me lock in. I'm really excited for the next episode. Creating characters is one of my favorite things, and that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be a step-by-step guide of how to create realistic characters, what makes characters realistic, and any other tips and tricks that I can give, offer, suggest even. So if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like our channel it is our channel. I feel like we have started on a really good foot. As of right now, we're almost at 300 subscribers. So I'm happy. I'm a happy girl. But yeah, no, I'm really grateful for everybody, and the support has been really nice. So thank you for that. Honestly, I think we might be overdue for an introduction post. Perhaps I shall do a Q&A. I feel very mysterious. Like, okay. Not mysterious, but I feel like we need to get to know each other, you know? Like we need to be acquainted. So maybe I'll do a Q&A. If you're writing today, I am wishing you endless love, luck, and creativity as always. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.